Welcome to the Soul Touched by Dogs podcast, the show for dog lovers who see dogs not as toys or tools, but wise souls worth our respect and care. I'm Anke Herman, and I'm your host. I talk to awesome humans, people who do great work for dogs and their people. So come and join us for today's conversation. Hello and welcome, Grisha. I always love starting on a bit of a giggle. So it has everybody a little bit relaxed. So I'm really excited to have you here today. So the good old questions. Where in this lovely world are you and what's your business with dogs?
Well, I am in the west coast of the United States in a place that we call Oregon. It's the land of the Siuslaw people. So I live on a river. And yeah, it's a beautiful sunny day. And what was your question besides for that? Where am I?
What's your business with dogs?
Oh, right.
We're
Yeah.
on a dog show, so
I'm
let's
all
just touch
busy,
on dogs.
thinking about this present moment. Yeah, I'm like a dog. So yes, I am. So behavior is my specialty. I developed BAT, behavior adjustment training, which is a technique for socializing dogs, for either socializing dogs who have already developed reactivity or, trauma, or some sort of bad experience, or puppies. So it's basically like how to teach social skills to dogs through this really slow, steady, careful dance where dogs have a lot of power, a lot of agency of choosing where they get to go.
Oh, I love that.
So I
I
have an
love
online
that.
school and books and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Now, I'm obviously curious what BAT stands for, and also like how the approach is different from what people might know from puppy classes and and other training methods they've come across. So like, what sparked you to create it? Because obviously you weren't happy with what was there.
Right, exactly. So BAT stands for behavior adjustment training. And the idea is that we adjust the behavior, but we don't we change the behavior, but we don't change the reason. So the behavior exists for a reason, like dogs are barking because they need distance or they need something to move closer. Like it's usually they're trying to change their environment somehow. And so rather than saying we're just going to give you a treat or we're going to punish you, which punishment isn't my jam, but rather than those two schools of thought, it's really about how can we help the dog know how to to interact with their environment in ways that are also like work for us humans. So that's one way it's majorly different, is that it's not treat heavy, although we certainly use treats in certain parts of it. And punishment definitely has no place in that. And yeah, so I developed it because of I had, let's see, I was teaching, I had a dog school in Seattle before I started traveling the world and then doing online work. And I had probably 4 aggressive dog classes a week. So classes for dogs with aggression problems. And I had my own dog, Peanut, my soulmate dog, and he was still reactive. So he was barking at people, barking at other dogs. And it's one of the most embarrassing things, right? To have a dog and be like, I'm a
Pressure
trainer,
is on
but
if you're dog
don't talk
trainer,
to me
right?
because I'm like too busy shoving treats in my dog's face right now to talk to you. And so, I had worked through his reactivity quite a bit, and in terms of like if he was in working mode, so like if he was actively engaged with me, like sitting or laying down or whatever, like he could look trained. But he was not happy. Like it's kind of like if you go to work and you hate your job and you're like, I'm here and I'm going to have that smile on my face, but like, I really don't want to be here. And that's how he was with other dogs and people. And, that's a really like, no, that's an icky place. Like, I don't want that for him. And I didn't want it for me. And so, I kept going to workshops and conferences and that kind of thing. And cobbled together this way of being that, and then sort of took a quantum leap of agency, of giving the dog more control, where I'm like, what if we just give them a chance to figure this out from a really safe distance? Because in like socialization, the way it works in the first place is like, they're assessing, am I safe here? What do I do here? And if you're too close, they go to their knee-jerk reaction of like, I don't feel safe here, and then I'm going to bark or flee or freeze or whatever. But if you're at the right distance, then they're like, oh, well, let me think about this. Actually, I have these other tools. I can sniff the ground, I can look away, I can be curious. And so what happens over time is, like, if you as a human are sort of like managing the distance, and I can explain that how, but if we manage the distance so that they're kind of always surfing at that edge of like curiosity, and they're never, or ideally not over the line of like, oh my God, what a, panic attack, what am I doing here? Then they start to come up with a whole new set of behaviors that works. So we, they look like the dog that we want them to look like, where they're like, oh hi, there's another dog, and let's go sniff and do the things.
Mm.
So, and he ended up being so my dog Peanut ended up being a therapy dog to go to assisted living facilities, and like he enjoyed that, and we had a new dog in our home, and he was like good friends, and could just be in the world. And it was, yeah, it was like one of the most satisfying experiences of my life to have him be able to go to these other places and not have to micromanage him anymore. And it does take time.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I love that. I love that because it is heartbreaking to see, when you think they kind of it's overwhelming and there's sort of, we don't know how to help them, It is, yeah. And this, I mean, I guess that's the thing, like if you're a trainer, the pressures on, the judgment, and people would be quite like, I don't know whether it's true but you definitely feel it.
right, exactly. I might be projecting, right? It's probably more in my head than theirs, but you never know, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is true though, if I'm like, oh, you're a dog trainer, I kind of think, well, I kind of would expect your dog to be. Yeah,
right.
it is
It's like that.
funny.
I don't know if you have that phrase, the cobbler's children have no
Yes.
shoes. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, my husband is a woodworker, and our cabinets are not perfect, and our dogs are also not perfect. And that's okay. Like, they're the amount of
Fair enough.
perfect that we
Yeah,
need.
whatever. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not about, I don't know, I never think like I've never liked the idea of obedience. I always thought like, I want you to listen to me enough to be safe so I can call you. You
Yes.
don't get run over by a car. Like it's about that. So how did you even get started to get into that profession?
Well, before I was a dog trainer, I was a mathematician, and yeah, and then I was teaching at a college or university, and I got a dog. And before I could get that dog, my partner at the time, he said, well, we need to read some books about dogs. And so I read like 50 books in one summer and wrote little reports about each one, because at the time I was a graduate student as well. And so yeah, so we got a dog, and I I just loved the complexity of behavior, and also just the capacity to understand, like, if I do this, they will understand this. And so like yeah, it was just a really good fit for me. And then so I volunteered at the shelter and did that for a while in the classes. Well, first in the shelter, like just training the dogs one-on-one, and then started volunteering in the classes, and then eventually started my own business, and then kind of like siphoned my time away. So it was like gradually teaching less math and more dogs, and then eventually took the plunge.
Wow. So what was the experience like? Was it what you thought it would be? Because no, most of the time when people sort of start their first business, you're like, it's all exciting and then it kind of hits you, right? So,
Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely parts of it that were like, this is exactly what I wanted. And I mean, I've been doing it for 20 years. So it's obviously plenty of what I wanted. And there was definitely a surprise in terms of timing. Like, I thought I was doing dog training nights and weekends because that's when I had time to do dog training. And then it turned out like that's when everybody else also has time to do dog training. And so for many years, it was like only nights and weekends, right? Like classes and
yes.
private lessons and things. And then I got enough experience that I could sort of like carve a niche as like, I only work in the day, and people would then have to hire me in the daytime. But yeah, there was definitely lots of nights and weekends. So that was a surprise. Also like this kind of vision of like you get to take your dog with you all the time, like that's not true. I mean, you can, like, if your dog is like the helper dog for aggression, but it's not really great for them, honestly. And so like there's less of that too, so at least for me.
Oh, yeah, That makes sense. So do you still work in person or is it all online now?
It's all online now. Every so often I'll work with a local person just, because I can,
Because you can.
and just to keep my chops up a little bit. Yeah. And I usually tell them though that like I don't do it for money locally because I have to say, because I don't like the responsibility of it. So I'm fine like meeting with them for several sessions, but I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to have to be somewhere at a specific time anymore. It's just how my brain works. And so I love the freedom of working through the computer now. And also the way a lot of what we do is train other dog trainers. And so we have like lots of different classes with different experts from around the world. I have lots of classes in there as well. And then we do certification and things. And so I'm really passionate about that area of it. And so I don't work locally as much anymore.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand because it's like the convenience of working online and it's also, I mean, training dog trainers has this leveraged way. So you're not just helping one dog, you're helping the person who can help hundreds
Exactly.
of dogs, right? So it's almost that, yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like that super benefit effect. Like if I help somebody, then I know the ripple effect of their career is like I've helped tons of dogs. And
Yeah.
that does feel really good. And I also, when I started this, I lived in Seattle and then I moved to Alaska for 5 years. And now I live in coastal Oregon in the middle of nowhere. And so that is great for my dogs, which is nice, and me. And there's like basically no customers here. So if I had to do it locally, I would be a very, very, poor
You
dog
need
trainer.
dog
I mean, I'd be a great
trainer.
dog trainer. Money poor. Yeah. So yeah, so
Starving,
some choices for
starving.
that.
Yeah, well, that makes perfect sense. So the training courses you offer, are they mostly around the bat, or is it like a broader catalog, or
It's the good question. It's a broad catalog. There's probably, I think, about 50 of the classes I have taught. It's got 150, 160 classes, I think, about now. And so a good chunk of them are either bat or bat philosophy. I would say probably maybe like 30 of the classes are about bat. And then the rest are all the general things that we run into with dogs. And it's similar to what you said in terms of we're not about obedience, we are about helping dogs and people live together in community. And so that means like how to, like I have a class that I taught I was like a keynote speaker at a conference in the UK, and we recorded that, and that's on the website too. And it's a class about how to track your dog, like how to pay attention to their emotional state. And so that's a lot of what we do.
yeah. So what is the most common thing people come to you for? Like if they,
I
or
would
do
say
you know,
aggression,
like,
or
yeah. I mean,
yeah, I
not
mean,
not
well, so
personally. I'm sort of
now,
thinking like to seek your help through the
yeah,
courses, so that.
to the Grisha Stewart Academy. Yeah. I mean, I think there's lots of different reasons. I mean, I think a lot of the people come for community. They really are. A lot of the dog trainers, it's a very lonely field because a lot of times you're like the only dog trainer in your town, or the only positive dog trainer, at least in like a certain area. Right. And then like
Yeah.
sometimes if people, even if there are more, then sometimes there's a weird, competition-y thing. Not always, which is good. But so yeah, we just have this really lovely community, and it's like one of the safest places on the internet where people are just like, we're here to lift each other up. We're always kind. It's a diverse space. So it's like, so that's, I would say, one of probably the main reason now, that like beyond the curiosity of how do I learn all about all these different dog training things, is like, how can I get support as an individual and as a dog trainer? Because we also have classes like how to human is one of the classes that's in there,
Yeah.
which is
So
like
if I'm coming and
self-care.
I'm not a dog professional, could I take your programs, or would you say like they're specifically geared towards people who want to do this professionally?
So both. So yes, you could totally do it if you're not a professional dog trainer. And certification piece that you would just ignore, of certain, like, filling out forms and taking tests and things. But all of the classes I appreciate being able to speak to whoever is in the room. And so the people we bring in do the same thing, where it's like, if we use a fancy word, there's usually some like regular definition that goes with it. And there's a couple of business classes, so there's some classes that are really more specific for dog trainers, but we have a set also that's very specifically for the public. So it's super basic, like, I just got a puppy, what do I do kind of class. So we have one called Empowered Puppy Raising, for example. That's really great, sort of step by step, and it goes along with a puppy class. Like if you're taking a puppy class in person for that social aspect, it's nice to still have some structure and theory that like might be different from the local trainer to sort of add in.
So from anybody
yeah,
who
and
seeks,
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just kind of wondering, like for anybody who seeks help from a dog behaviorist or dog trainer, like, so would you say reactivity, aggression is the biggest kind of issue, or what's sort of the most typical thing that people seek out help for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little skewed because my aggression is my focus, right? And so that's definitely the bread and butter of what comes to me. And I would say, like, probably for most trainers, it's either that or sort of like a impulse control. Like the dog is just like, I don't know what the rules are here, like help me understand like what we're doing. Um, so yeah, those are the kind of the two things, is either dogs who are just like, it's a more of a translation problem because they know how to sit, they know how to lay down, they just don't know when we want it and why they should want to do it in that moment. And then the more of a almost like a therapy, right? Trauma informed, attachment informed, like how do we help the dog be in their body in this space without feeling like they have to go bark at everything or run away.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes a lot of sense to me, because it's just like people, if you're freaked out, yes, I know how to sit, but I might not be able to do it when I'm like, so yeah. I mean, so would you also look at the other end of the leash in that respect?
Absolutely. Yeah. So in fact, we have specifically with the leash, ironically, we have a class called Stop Pulling. And most of my classes are about like what to do. I just decided to call that stopping pulling because that's what most people search for. But in the Stop Pulling class, we actually have a whole section about glimmers, about how to teach people to have a cue, a specific way to tell their nervous system that they're safe and that they can settle down, because dogs are co-regulating with us, right? When we're in a family or even when we're just sort of next to each other, our nervous systems are regulating together, just like a flock of birds. Like you scare one and then all of a sudden everybody's like, ah, and they leave. And same thing with dogs is that they're like, ah, okay, that person is calm. So the chances of it being dangerous have just gone down a little bit, right? Because they're looking at us for information. And so if we're on edge all the time, that's hard. So a glimmer is the opposite of what's called a trigger. So a trigger is like the thing that reminds them that they're in danger or whatever. So they start barking. And a glimmer is a sign of safety or belonging or whatever else that we might need as humans as well. And so I teach people to do a practice in different places to generalize it, just like we do with dog training, of telling themselves that they are safe and then doing a breathing exercise. And so then that verbal cue of you're safe, or a hand signal of hand on heart, for example, becomes a signal that they are. And so their nervous system can calm down a little bit.
I can see that totally
like
be very
videos on how to
helpful, because it can be like, as you might imagine, these are my four. Two have crossed the bridge by now, but the two boys, they, also the environment we're living in. So and I, like little Leo, he got bitten when he was 11 months old, and he was never quite the same with
right.
big male dogs in confined spaces. He was fine on the beach, when there's space, and he was fine when he's off lead. But like when we would walk in the little alleyway, and I could really see, and I knew it like rationally, that I'm like, I'm scanning the horizon, like I'm tense. but I also know the
Right,
moment,
right.
like, how am I supposed to relax if I know perfectly well in the next corner this neighbor's dog could be right here? So it was like, it's really like
Mhm,
knowing that he isn't going to be relaxed, and I can do. So it's like,
mhm.
it's hard to break that cycle, when you think like, I know he's going to go
Very much
mental
so.
when there's a dog, so I'm tense,
Mhm.
then that's not going to help him. And so we can hype each other up, the entire time. So I think a breathing exercise like that would have probably really helped to at least calm one
Yeah.
one one of
Yeah,
us
more
down.
calm baseline at least so that yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's a skill set part of it too of like if you are, what to do in that scenario. So, we would rehearse the U-turn, for example, so that there is a like, here's what I do in the situation so that like that part of your brain can be satisfied that I know what I will do. And then the other part is like, and now that I know that I really am safe, let's at least tell the nervous system that too. And also things like it might require conditioning the dog to wear a muzzle so they're comfortably muzzled, and so that if everything did go wrong, everybody would be safe. Or it may be just there's different things that can be done in those situations. And like I've worked with dogs in Spain. The roads are very narrow in some places. Like it's not even a road, it's like a sidewalk but it's a road. Yeah, it's very tiny.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
especially
and
where
part
I
of it
was living
like
was the
where
historic part of town where literally, like, I was living on the wide
right?
road and I could touch both walls if I stretched my arms out, so
Mm.
and that was like the main road across, So yeah, there wasn't very far to go if somebody would cross you, it was definitely a tight space. That's why we're not living there anymore. So
I was
yeah,
gonna say that's also part of the thing is like choosing, right? What's actually where can the dog really be successful and where is it more just like living in a war zone it's
yeah.
constantly going to re-trigger them and you. Yeah, and we do have a class called survival skills for that kind of scenario of like if you have a dog and how do you get through like everyday life without, so because bat is really like long-term kind of therapy-ish, and then survival skills is like how to just at least not have a terrible day today. So
Yeah. Oh
there's
yeah.
there's even an additional one called urban bat that Vivian Arzumanian did. And yeah, so we have all those like we have this joke around, I don't know if you remember the old Microsoft commercials or maybe they're still happening, but that says like there's an app for that, or maybe it's the Apple has that anyway. Like, so we say there's a class for that because everything that we've been doing this long enough that any questions, there's almost always a class for that.
I love that.
So
I love that. So where can people go find those classes? Like, where can they go? They go, oh, I need a class. I need the survival class. So where are we going to send
yes,
people?
exactly. So send them to grishastewart.com. So just my name. And then I also I have to put a plug into another project I'm working on called Stellar Village. And so if you really want to work on the human side of things, it's a separate online community space that I founded and am now a part of, co-owner of. And yeah, so Stellar Village, it's a folk school for the skills of belonging and getting our own nervous system to be relaxed.
Wow, I love that. So we're going to pop that link down below here as well. So because obviously we're part of the puzzle there, right? So we can't just only work on the dog,
Yes.
So yeah, okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
I think that's my evolution as a human, right? Was to go from this sort of like more like just train the dog to like, oh wait, actually help the dog live with us and then train the human side. And now I'm really like, you know what? If humans would just have a society where we could get along a lot better, it would just like naturally flow to the how we work with dogs. So
Yeah, that
yeah.
makes perfect sense to me. Thank you so much. It was an absolute delight.
Thank you,
And yeah, I'll definitely pop those links below. So with that wealth of knowledge for trainers and dog lovers, and we can make this a better place. Thank you.
Let's do that. Yeah. Take care.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so other dog lovers can find the show. If you haven't already, head over to soultouchedbydogs.com and sign up for weekly doggy cuteness, tips, recommendations, and personal stories to warm your dog-loving heart. And if you know a awesome human you think I should interview, I'd love an introduction. Email me at Anke, that's ANKE, @soultouchedbydogs.com.